No, first one.
Earlier there was $1 for spend it on.
Oh, really?
You know what, I didn't know, so I have to do it. She said, she had meetings the night that they slide the fat release under all the way, and then there's no.
Yeah,
Oh, you're never gonna get that one.
the general lift stations are gonna be able to attach their generator, but ours aren't.
So we're
Yeah. And we're getting double this on electricity because we gotta pay for our own. We're in our pump, and we pay for everybody else's. And we're all sharing.
anyway.
From the date of purchase.
I don't know.
It's that long. But we don't have to pay for replacement, but you could be out of luck.
It's like eating coffee and food.
Right, yeah, so that makes sense. I would have voted no, I would have yes. I'm not saying we voted yes. I don't know. I would have voted no. I'm taking a shit. Yeah, why would you want to replace it?
And now, said that. I said, I only use my tank. I want to use my tank. So, what they would have to do is like, pumps and destroy it or pump. And it's not the station from the outside, then you should be.
Okay.
This is what I was told.
Okay. I have no easy way to get electricity. I know that the attic has a bunch of roofs built over the years. I'm an electrician. I can't get the panels in the house, so I can't get access. So we gotta run it from the main. Yeah, you gotta go to 220.
Thank you.
Already there online, but then basically, it's just more where you
And we lost
Yeah. I got no room on my panel on the wall.
We worked 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I gotta come off main, which means where the pump has to go, you got that little piece of grass, that's where the septic is, right there. I got a bore on the driveway, like, you have a pop on the side of the house. It's gonna cost $2 grand to have it.
Taken out by 10.
Okay, so what's it cost to drill? So it'd be 800 for that. Then the electrician, he's gonna cost me, he's gonna charge me 1,500. Right to, right down to 220 line and break hard. It's over $2 grand. I want to bet right there.
Just drive around the back. She said they put wood chips out to kind of keep it warm apart.
Oh, they're involved in stuff.
I've got it. I'm just gonna- This is what I usually do.
Yeah.
Even when
I have a pond every other year. It's just fun.
Hey, hi everyone, hi. Welcome to the store meeting. Thanks. Steve Corcoran from Performance Engineering. Yep.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you, we'll start with just an update on how things are going. The Elmer's contract, which is for the gravity sections north of the bridge up in the church neighborhood down to Mac Avenue on this side. They're just about done. We paved last Thursday, started first truck, we were laying asphalt at 07:53, and we finished a little after 7:30 that night. Their batch plant down at Thumb Lake Road broke twice during that time. So it was a long day, but it's 48 trucks, 717 tons of asphalt, so nice job. But it was a busy day, but we got it all in. This week, they were gonna get going on restoration, they're a little off, they've been working on something else, but they should be working on restoration this week and next week, and that's basically cleaning all the excess gravel off from alongside the pavement, putting down topsoil, seeding that. In a few areas, we're gonna leave some of the gravel there. One of the spots is on the inside of the corner there where the pipe wraps around to width. We can see where people are driving kind of over there already, so we're just gonna leave about that much gravel off the edge of the road there. They'll be doing restoration work. They're gonna be doing a little more work up on the steep parts, up on Gatewood and Hemlock. There wasn't big curb up in those areas, but what was there was just grass that had grown in real good through like gravel alongside. We put gravel in, but it just wouldn't hold, and topsoil is not holding. So we're actually gonna have to put sod, and we're gonna get something on the sod from that state. Put that in, that's what the road commission wants, so that's what we're gonna do. But that'll be going on. We're hoping that Consumer Energy will be installing the electricity service to all three of their lift stations in the near future. Two of them passed county electrical inspection, one had a grounding issue, it's gonna be fixed on Thursday, be re-inspected Friday, and then consumers will schedule all three to get the services. In the meantime, we're gonna be pulling mandrels, which means they take something that's basically perfectly round the size of the pipe, and they pull it from station to station to make sure none of the pipes have gotten flattened out or anything during installation. So they'll be doing that. We'll be doing final checks, looking at all the, open up all the manholes, making sure there's not excess dirt, gravel, or something that in there. But then once we get electricity to the lift stations, then we can start doing some testing on those. And once that passes, we should be able to let people start, a few people hook up, even if the plant's not ready yet. Yeah, we don't mind having a few start trickling people in. I don't want to throw any dates out, because then if we don't make that date, then And give people's hopes up. But things are looking up, that they're just about done. Any questions on how Elmer's contract's going? And then we'll look over here. There'll be some bollards put in at the 3 lift stations to protect those from, get people from backing in out of them.
Right.
Sorry, I go there.
And then the one on Arthur there, it's really close to the road. We don't know how they even get it in there, but they'll be kind of protecting there, both 3 bollards as well.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the purpose at the parking lot at the beach for that pipe that's been running water for weeks up 2 to 3 houses and it's running constantly?
Well,
Nice
because-
size hose.
Yes, it's just so wet right there. We just want to keep that area dry while they're finishing up work and stuff.
So that won't be there forever?
No,
Okay,
that'll come out.
okay.
Once we're done, like, because consumer still has to run their electricity underground and through that area there, and then tie into the lift station and that, so we want it nice and dry, so they're not digging some muck in there. And then once everything's tied in, we don't care if the water comes up to its natural level. So it'll go away. All right. Matt said, oops, this one,
Since you're talking about Depot Beach, when are they gonna be moved out of Depot Beach? Because I mean, this week it's hot, and I went down there and the parking lot was jam-packed, but they are using one complete side of the area.
right, and
Then when are they gonna be out?
pretty soon. I don't know
That's pretty
exactly.
soon.
Well, as they have to deliver in some more topsoil and some other stuff, they just need a place to kind of stage a few things and then get out. They're gonna get out of this. Depends how restoration goes. So,
Well, that's not. Because there's already, I mean, when this all started, you said you were gonna take 2 parking spots. You actually took 4 from the parking lot. And now you have that whole complete side, we really would like to have some type of a date. Is it gonna be before Memorial?
Yeah, they should be, the restoration should be done within the next 2 weeks. And they should be out of there, I think, even before that.
And if they're not, will we contact you or Elmer's?
You can call me. They don't want to be there much longer either. All right. Matt's, which has the low pressure sewer contract, but basically down South Prospect and then the Columbus Beach Club. It's been a little slow going over there. And they've been working on Pier Avenue, which they finally hit some fair amount of water, and they're having to do some serious dewatering right in front of Bob's house, unfortunately. So, but they got it, they set dewatering points on Friday and got it pumped down over the weekend, and they got that stretch dug in the last 2 days. And it looks like the soil is much better now that they're getting north of Bob's house there, so. I'm hoping that they're done with Pier by the end of this week, but with the rate they're going, it's not gonna be till Monday, Tuesday, and they gotta get Harrison done. So the plan right now is hopefully be done with Pier and Harrison by the end of next week. And then we can start getting the road prep for paving, but hold off on paving until after Memorial Day. I don't think there's any way that we're going to get paid before Memorial Day. So, getting it out of there. They've been working a lot. They're not making as much day-to-day mainline progress as Elmer's was, because they're also putting all the services, they're putting the drilling the lines, the grinder pumps, they're putting them long laterals for some of these ejector pumps and that. So that's slowing down a bit too. Plus these are all dead end streams too. So it's tough to get a lot of 2 teams going at once when you can't get material to the backside. So, but they're working on it. They've gotten a lot of stuff cleared out of CDC's big lot down there by the boathouse. The plan is to get all that stuff out of there within the next week and get it reseeded and then let it start growing again. Let's see. Anything else any questions on Matt's contract? The wastewater plant itself, they've been working a lot faster now, the weather warmed up. They have one more concrete pour to close in a couple of the southern tanks on the big tank area there. Last night, the first 2 loads of water went in to start filling up the biggest equalization surge tank. We got filled up 8 feet full of water, let it sit for a day or two, make sure there's no leaks, and we can backfill up to that point and fill it up another, 4, 5, 6 feet. Check the top part for leaks as well. It's even filling up, it's taking a little bit longer. Normally on a project like this, you just get with the municipality, go to the nearest hydrant, turn it on, just let it blast the water. You guys don't have a water system. So, and then the pump system that serves the water plant has had issues as well. So they contracted with Grant to be drilling, they're using a 6,800 tank. It's going to take about 22 loads to get up 150,000 gallons to do the test. So first 2 loads were in last night. We're going to keep cycling those in. The water testing is going on. Their schedule right now is looking like once they get all the finished concrete work done on the tanks, and they have precast concrete planks that will be delivered the week of the 22nd. That's for topping the big tanks. And then the week after that, they'll start putting in the railings and the walkways to access all the equipment that'll be installed as part of the treatment process. The first week of June, they need to hunt the operators for the township need to begin a drawdown for their annual sludge tank pumping. And so they're going to coincide that with some work that we need to do to core in between the tanks. So, hopefully within the next couple of months, the plant will be ready to start testing. We are starting to work on some of the equipment. First of the 3 new blowers is set in place. It is not operational yet. But once it becomes, we took out blower number 1, put in new blower number 1, and then once that one's gone, then they'll take out old blower number 2, and then set in new blower number 2, and then we're going to have to do a little addition to fit blower number 3, which is additional blower for this project. So that stuff's creeping along, but work's getting done. The ice storm didn't help, and the return to a cold winter, which hasn't happened for about 5 years, that didn't help either. Any questions on that contract? Yes.
So what's the outside date, I'm not gonna hold, I know dates are movable, of the plant being operational, the expansion.
The contract date?
Yeah.
I want to say it's the end of June. I have to double check. We moved it, the change order sometime last year. And then a couple of things that we want to add in. Look, getting the plant operational is one thing, but so that it's working. Getting it all the way to the finish line, it's probably going to be a while. The extra $1 million that is earmarked that we're trying to get pulled over into the project. We need that to do the mechanical screen replacement, and it was in the project originally, but when the bids came in too high, it was pulled out of the project. With $1 million from that thing, that's one of the things that's going to help fund. But the lead time on that screen is 5 months. So there's going to be somebody working at the plant for quite a while. But as far as getting up and running, I'm hoping within the next few months we'll have the second train going and start taking things.
And you said like phase 1 tap-ins can happen, and what type of timeline approximately?
I'm hoping within the next few months that we have to get the lift stations up and running first, and nothing can get pushed up the lift station. Mead and Hunt is amenable to having stuff going over there, even if the new train isn't ready to go over there. It sounds like they don't mind stuff trickling over. So we do a few hookups. Because we like to see how the system works. So I want to dump a whole bunch of people. So, I wish I could give you, good guesses. I don't want to be wrong to get hopes up either.
Thanks.
Listen,
Go back a little bit, talk about Elmer's lift station, what about that lift station?
no, Matt's lift stations, the one at Prospect passed electrical inspection last week. I did not see a sticker on one, not here today when I was there, so I'm going to check with him tomorrow. Or actually, Isaac was going to check with his electrician to see what the status was, to see if he's ready, has ordered an inspection, or is ready for inspection, has ordered it or not. No, they just started the electrical on that last week. It looks like it's pretty much available.
Hopefully the consumers do all that for the same time.
Yeah, they're tracking them as two separates, because it's two different contractors. And Matt's is two, we're lagging behind Elmer's three. But the fact that we're, at least one of them's been electrical inspected, the other one I think is close. It's a good sign for the consumers. I emailed them yesterday and his response was, yeah, he was up here last week, everything looked good, he was just waiting for all of them to be inspected before he turned on the scheduling for the actual hookups. All right, I don't have much of an update on phase two. For our last, I heard from the contractor, we're still planning starting mid-July on the gravity. That'll be starting down at the lift station at the intersection of Barbara and Dolores and Dorothy, yeah, down there, and then working their way to the northeast. The low pressure system at the end of Barbara and going out to Sturgeon Island. They had said if things go well on the gravity contract and they get done early enough in the fall, they're thinking about starting on the low pressure one. I'm not banking on that. I'm just pretty much. They're probably not gonna start the low pressure one until the spring. I can't see them wanting to tear into something. Yes, sir.
Good question. Like the pumps that were on Sturgeon Island. And Aaron I talked to and walked out the island with Aaron and stuff like that. I got a brand new system. And talked to Aaron and I want to use my tank. It's a brand new tank. Aaron said there should be no problem whatsoever. I'm within 20 feet from the road. Just because of the one fact that we have a storm like we just had, 30-gallon tanks, you're only going to be able to use your toilet about twice, and then you're not going to be able to use the facilities whatsoever. In the meetings and walking the island with Aaron, he said there should be no problem. Basically, I worked in the sewer business for 40 years. Yeah, so all we'd have to do is pump the tank down, make sure there's no infiltration coming in from the outside, and be able to drop the pump in the tank, which even if I have to do that myself, I'll do it. But what I'm asking is are we still going with that?
Last I talked to him, that's
Yeah, because I even called you.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah, and in talking with Trudy, did you want one of the township pumps?
Well, that's what another question to that too is because the simplex pumps the warranty on a simplex pump is only 2 years from the time of purchase, 18 months from the time it's installed. And so the township is responsible for that pump, correct?
If you sign an easement and
Did.
accept
Yeah.
the township putting in a pump,
Yeah.
one of their pumps,
Yeah.
they're gonna maintain that in perpetuity. So, and they'll come on, if something goes wrong, they'll come in and diagnose it, if it needs to be replaced, they'll replace it, that's the plan. If you want to use one of your own pumps, then it's on you.
Yeah, I understand that. But if it was on us, the question is then do we get the money back that what the pump was gonna originally cost the township? Well, I mean, we should because we're not paying for it. We're not using it. So why would we not get that like that?
Well, I would say no.
The pump will just go into their inventory for a replacement for somebody that has one of theirs goes out.
I understand that, but the homeowner ought to be able to get that kickback because we're already paying for it. And so I know you could put it back on the shelf and use it for somebody else, which we're all gonna pay that price anyways when the pump goes down, just spread across to everybody.
You're paying the same assessment as the gravity people, which aren't getting any pump.
That's what I said. That's what everybody's gonna pay for, but, I mean, why if we gotta pay for, if I wanna go and put a duplex pump in instead, so it's not just working that pump to death, then it seems like there ought to be some kickback toward that, property owner.
Well, as a project, I do it as a project cost, the entire project, and it is paid for by the entire phase, of which there are, I'll just say 200. I know it's not quite that many. So to start piecemealing it out from a cost share perspective, it becomes cumbersome for going and keeping track of that. It was presented as an entire project to be split, let's say 200 ways. I understand that the choice is yours. You have the experience, the expertise to go to that next level or to that different level. And again, that choice is yours. Similarly, I suppose that would be true for any of us even if we did not have that expertise in our background. But I think for someone like me who doesn't have that in my background, I would find it cost prohibitive. And the enticement to me would be to go to the township and sign an easement for the perpetuity of the maintenance. But to your point, it was a package deal to be shared amongst the 200, and that was the cost figure that was agreed.
I was saying that, then I could just take the pump myself, whatever they're gonna put in, and keep that myself, and then put my own duplex, if it got to that point, and then put the duplex pump in, because I already paid for it. 'Cause we all already paid for it.
It's your pump.
It's my pump.
No,
You only paid
the
for a
town-
small piece of it.
that's correct.
You paid 1/200th of the total cost of the project, that's the way they got the financing. So your actual, what you paid for that pump is probably not even 2% or 3% of the pump.
Well, there's 200 pumps, so, well, how many pumps are there?
Right,
but-
say 200.
No,
But there are 200 pumps.
not everybody gets pumped, but nobody that gets a gravity system, a gravity pump, like Steve said, they're paying for your pump.
But what we're not cost sharing is the price to hook up the electrical.
Right.
Yeah, that's all on us, and there's no help, but we're getting double dipped, because we gotta pay to have the electrical run to it. And I'm on a slab, and I don't have any room in my panel in the house, and I'm gonna have to bore to get to my main to hook it up. There's $800 to $1,000.
Right, but you got the benefit of the whole
And then,
project.
I'm talking here, and then we're paying for our own electricity to run our pump, and no one's sharing that cost, so we're getting double dipped on the electricity.
Okay.
So that's not the issue. Are you an engineer?
I am actually, I'm not a sewer.
Oh, this,
engineer.
okay, so let's let the sewer engineer answer these questions, and whoever's up here in front. I mean, they're the people that matter. And so how do we, why can't we share that cost across the entire system?
Well, as far as I see it, I mean, you knew the home that you purchased.
I didn't know that when I voted yes, that I would have this extra cost. If I could go back, I would vote no.
And it still may have gone through.
I want to withdraw my vote.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah. And when the power goes out, I'm literally SOL unless I have a generator that can run that pump. So is the system gonna buy generators for everyone?
We do have generators.
Not for these pumps, because it's hooked up to my electricity.
We do have generators that are portable, that we will take around to service the grinder pumps so that the sewage that is in it will come properly.
Actually, those are for
Those
the
stations, okay.
not for individual.
Okay.
Not for us.
My mistake.
So do we get Generacs installed for us?
No,
No.
that's a personal choice.
No, I'm SOL. When the power goes out for 6 days, right now I can get a bucket of water out of the Sturgeon River, pour it down there, and I can flush that thing 1,000 times. Power goes out, and how many flushes do I get? Without the generator. What's the holding tank size?
they're like 30 gallons and
It depends on where it is
the
in the
way that
cycle.
they're set up, you're gonna flush every about 12 gallons.
12 gallons every time.
I got another
12
question.
gallons per flush?
No, the way the
12
floats are set
Oh, I'm
up in the
sorry.
30 gallon
I'm
tank.
sorry.
I got another question for you. In previous meetings, neither one of you guys were even here, that there was $1.8 million donated or kicked in from the DEQ that couldn't be paid to pay the cost of anything down. But Bob Kramer said that they were gonna use that on phase one to help people do their hookups. But I don't understand why we didn't take that $1.8 million and put some generators on our lift stations. So when we have a power outage like we just had, that all of a sudden we can have some, they would start up and the village would be able to use the facilities. And I just don't understand why you take $1.8 million and put it toward phase one or phase two, whichever one you pick, instead of putting generators on the lift stations.
Well, I think that's a question for Mr. Kramer, but I'm going to extrapolate from here that I believe the previous administration, and particularly Bob Kramer, worked really hard to try to obtain the funding and keep the costs down to a reasonable amount. If you recall, phase one came in at 17 and change, phase two came in at 18 or vice versa. I think if we were to take that $1.8 million away from phase one, we might be surprised at.
That 1.8 wasn't in the 17 though, that 1.8 was on top because it comes from the DEQ. And Bob and Jana said that could not be used to pay down the cost. It could be used to help people do their hookups and could have been put on top for generators and stuff like that. You can ask Aaron, you can call Aaron up and, I mean, in all the meetings, that's what was brought up. And for some reason, Bob says we're gonna take that so we can help the people in phase one. And I didn't understand it because we're all supposed to pay the same.
There are two different phases though.
I know, phase one and phase two.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the statement that we're all gonna pay the same, within each phase, the parties will pay the same. But I remember distinctly the conversation and the statement that the costs between phase one and phase two were within hundreds. And I believe Aaron was here that night and said, it's rare that it should be so close. We have to pull the numbers. But I'm sorry, I probably missed that meeting, but I don't recall hearing that conversation, and that's my apology. I don't know that.
That's fine. It's just, there was, when the petition went out and when this thing first rolled and started balling up, is that everybody, phase one and phase two was supposedly, and I know that there's a lot more gravity feed in phase one, that everybody was supposedly, our numbers were gonna come out really close to the same. And then when the same $1.8 million come up, and then all of a sudden Bob said that they were gonna take that help over on phase one after they'd already got the money appropriated. I just, it dumbfounds me how you take the money there and put it toward one phase and not either split it, or common sense would tell you to put some generators on our lift stations. We have some people call it gravity feed, but you only gravity feed down the hill a little bit and you pump everything here. This thing is costs twice as much as most sewer systems does.
My understanding of the sewer system is that the way that we have designed, or the sewer system was designed, was with using the gravity was one of the least expensive ways.
Well, if you could all gravity feed jets.
Yes.
But and I know there's no place down here that we could put a plant in, so we pump everything. So it's definitely not the least. I've worked on a lot of gravity feeds where you can gravity feed that you can get 30-some feet in the ground. Now, you cannot do that here.
Right.
I wasn't around for the early meetings, but I know what I've heard is that the intent was to try and level the playing field as much as possible between the gravity and the grinder. And originally they wanted to have the contract cover not just the grinder pump, but also the line from the curb stop to the grinder pump and all that stuff. But when the bids came in, or as the estimates were getting higher and higher, they stripped some of that out. That's why you're getting the grinder pump but not the connection of the grinder pump to the curb stop, for instance. But they were trying to keep it, trying to level it out best.
So he's over on 39, we'll go back to that. I mean, it's gonna be a low pressure. So you're gonna, you're gonna have a curb stop and then go up to your tank, whatever, with your pump in it. There where everybody else has to get their power, their light, their warning light and stuff. And then from there, they have to hook into, per se, that tank. The homeowners has to,
Right.
yes.
And I'd like to know who thought, I bought the house 12 years ago. Who thought 12 years ago that I'm buying a house on a slab and do I have enough room in a panel and not knowing all these costs, and then I voted yes. And like Trudy said, it's like, oh, Greg, you bought this house, you should have known. That was 12 years ago. And now I'm very disappointed in the system. Can you please tell me why we have to have the low pressure system? I don't understand that engineering aspect of it.
Where are you looking?
I'm down on Barbara, we've got to have a grinder pump.
We're before the bridge, maybe 3 houses.
Yeah, so we're down by the Bird Lake Marina.
Okay, yeah, well, basically with the water table there is so high, you just can't, it's hard to dig and get your gravity lines, because you have to have enough fall to go from there to there. Right. It's very, very difficult to do that.
Did the engineers assess the water table in that area?
Yeah, yes.
And where is, how high is the water table?
There's, within a couple of feet of the surface.
Couple of feet. Because that's all engineered ground, because that Sturgeon River was moved so long ago. So I thought maybe that might affect the water table to our benefit, but obviously it didn't.
It's just, water seeks its own level.
Exactly.
Down there, it's usually only a couple of feet down.
When you put in the grinder pump, how big of a diameter of a hole do you need to dig to put that
And what does it look like at the end of the day? How am I landscaping around it? I know that sounds crazy, but.
The grinder pumps, they're 2 foot in diameter. It's basically a 5 foot tall fiberglass tube.
no.
No,
in? Wait a minute, it's 5 foot on the ground.
it's 5 foot
Okay.
tall. It goes underground.
I'm not even, we need some big
believe
bushes.
it.
I'm not gonna be shooting it with my deer rifle to the side. It's underground.
It's a 5 foot deep fiberglass chamber that goes down. The lid is a very thick, hard plastic ring, just like you'd see a lid for your septic tank.
Where should she go look at? Is there one in phase 1?
None have been installed yet, but if you go down, if CBC lets you in, there's a bunch of them on pallets down by the boathouse. But,
Okay, but we'll have that, I'll be up there,
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture.
So what's the diameter of the hole you have to dig to install that?
usually about 4 or 5 feet, to get it down in there, depending on how wet it is, how stable your stuff is. And they have to be able to get around and get stuff hooked up, to it on the outside.
And will that be installed immediately or when we're ready to hook up?
It depends. Because the way the contract's written, because they stripped out the connection part of it, they left in installing the grinder pump. So by contract, Walton Contracting as you're down there, they say they're interested in doing hookups. And that's what Matt's doing over in the beach club. So when they can wait, and they'll give you an estimate for your part of the work. And then they can do it all at once. If you use somebody else to do it, that's where it gets a little murky. It's like, well, does Walton just go in and dig a hole and stick it in and then back out? Or do they time it, is your guy gonna be there when they're doing that kind of stuff?
I think, Greg, they gotta put dewatering down the road, you can get down in there, because this 5 foot structure down there, they're gonna be 3 feet deep in the water sand, which they probably use a back truck, it's probably gonna be their easiest way to set these.
I have some more questions on the subject. Is it the same subject?
Yeah, I would just like to remind everybody that all of the sewer meetings are videotaped, recorded, and they're available online at the township. Indian River flows, and some of them were live streamed, but not most. But we did record all of them, and they're all available on Indian River Flow. So if you want to go back and look and see what was said or what was.
Oh, I know I'm way behind. It's my first meeting. I'm way behind.
It's a lot.
I appreciate it. But so, how far off the road does that grinder pump need to be?
That's completely up to you. Most people, you want to put them up close to where it comes out of the house. You know, near where, usually the line comes out of your house and it heads over to your tank, because you want a gravity to that, to your grinder pump. And then the line will go down to the road. Now, some people want it closer down, they don't want it up by the house. But that's totally your call. You have to run electricity to it, so the further away from the house you get, the more electricity installation is going to be. If you get it down too close to the road, then you've got a pedestal with your light control panel. Well, what about the snow plow?
Right. Is that a pedestal or can it be on the?
Most people put it on the side of the house.
What's that look like?
It's just a light.
Oh, it's just
It's just a
small.
warning light.
Small thing, it's got a little red light on
Cause I've got a septic tank and a dry well, and if they dig too far to begin with, they're gonna mess up my dry well.
it.
And that's the trouble.
And that's why we're trying to get a hold of people to meet with them. You know, what spot is going to work best for you for your curb stop location and your grinding pump location. You know, we want to pick the spot that's going to work best for you, be the most economical for you, hopefully as well. And that, I got one person, they've got a big wraparound deck out front, and the stuff comes out. They put it just off the deck, they put it under the deck with a trap door, they put it down by the road. They're trying to make up their money.
So as we do this planning and thinking about it, since we're phase two, towards the end of Barbara, before middle of Barbara, before the bridge, because Barbara continues, when should we start speaking with someone to start to get ideas and plan financially?
Anytime, really, I guess. I know Walton is interested in doing hookups, and so they're on that list. We have, in all the stuff that the township's posted online that we worked on for them, there's a huge list of all the contractors in the county and all that kind of stuff. But we've got one page in there of contractors that we know are interested in doing work. Walton's is one of those, and I asked them, who's your contact person? So I forget her name off the top of my head. But
So it's not too early right now, and it looks like we might not get anything down the road until the spring of 20.
But your estimate could change.
Yeah, it'll
Because that's
change.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the estimate to do the sewer hookup, not the estimate to do my electrical work.
No.
That's a separate contract.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, you got a lot of contractors.
You know, I'm still upset that everybody with these grinder pumps, that cost isn't shared for the electrical hookup. And these systems are based on sharing the cost across everybody. And I don't know if they knew we were gonna have these pumps early on, but we were never told early on when we voted, that I can recall, that we would have this extra cost. So it seems to me like there's a due diligence or I don't know if maybe we were told, but maybe we didn't, maybe we were told, but I don't remember ever being told under the previous people who were leading this effort.
Two people have their hand up, and I can't answer that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna have to go back.
Notes, when I was doing that history stuff.
Yes,
We were talking about the pumps.
yes.
Yeah, but the extra cost, we didn't know that.
Well,
It is what it is, okay.
No, it's not. No, it's not is what it is. You can always litigate. You can always litigate.
Okay, one question. I thought, where the tanks, the poly tanks were gonna go in, I thought that was just going into, per se, the property line, or easement line, road easement or something.
the curb stop goes basically where the property line, right-of-way line is. The grinder pumps themselves, they can go anywhere on the property you want.
And extra cost though, and with them coming in farther with Walton's would be extra cost to bring that in farther?
The curb stop's gonna go to the property line.
Yes, but
Wherever you put the other stuff, you're paying for the line to go to it, you're paying for the electric to go to it. You know, we aren't paying Walton anything extra for where it goes on the property.
I know that Walton's gonna set that tank, the poly tank.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's say, if somebody wanted it 30 feet off the road, it seemed like that'd be additional cost to get that thing, because at first they were just gonna come into, per se, the property line, you'd have your curb stop and then your tank.
They did the project with an unknown location for the grinder pump.
Oh, so that would be without additional cost.
There'll be no addition, no matter where the grinder pump goes on your property.
Okay.
It's including the contract, to at least stick it in the ground.
Then the hookup to that, if you have it 100 feet away from that, you gotta pay for 100 feet of hookup, because that's your choice where you have it.
Well, you're gonna pay the hookup line no matter where it is. It might be a long run from the curb stop to the grinder pump and only 5 feet to the house, or you can go 100 feet from the house and then 5 feet to the curb stop.
Unless I pick a really goofy location.
You gotta factor in how much you wanna run all the way up the road and then pay for electric all the way down. Right.
But you don't mind me saying something?
No.
Way back when, they did in the petition and all that, I read it as, once they got the bid, it was going to go back out for a recount, and we never got that. And I think that's where you're
Right,
thinking.
because it's changed.
Because it did change that, it did not go back out for us to say yay or nay. And I think that's
That's probably where
what
I'm
you're
stuck.
recalling.
Yeah,
But I just wanted to, you're not the only one.
right.
I'm
It's under the-
curious as to what, because typically there can be two different types of petitions to the special assessment. There's one that states whether you have an interest in it, and there's one that states that you were going to do it.
And I feel we only got the one that said, do you have an interest?
Okay, well, we can't, I would say at one point there would be no way that a board would accept that. But wasn't there, don't know.
Okay. As far as petitions that were received by the township, they were received for both sides. Every day, I was at the mailbox, and every day we put petitions in a database, and every day we took them to the township, and they were counted by the supervisor. So there was a petition drive for both sides.
But
The only one.
that's the only one I heard. That's the only one we-
No, that you had to receive,
You received the
you had to
second.
receive that, because we had
Not after the
lists.
bid.
And I'm saying after the bid, I'm saying after the bid.
After the people bid.
After the bid.
I
And
agree.
I mean, I have seen it in the minutes.
The bids didn't come in until after the petitions.
I
were
understand
in.
that, but after the petitions, but I'm not gonna argue.
No, go ahead, it's fine.
But after, to me, I read it as, after the bids came in, there would be another petition to go out, and then it would be a final say. How can you say yes to something if you don't know how much it's gonna cost? I mean, like he was saying, all his extra stuff, I could remove 3 trees, I have to do this, I would have never said yes to all this, Vicki.
I know, I understand.
It's
And
very costly.
all I'm arguing is that before we went forward with the SADs, there was a petition drive. If you signed it, it was a yes. If you didn't sign it, it was an automatic no. That went out to both sides
But I would
before.
bids on it.
No, nobody had the bids.
I'm
Nobody
talking the
had the
bids,
bids.
I'm talking the bids, that's all I'm talking about.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you about that. I'm talking about to establish an SAD, you need 51%
I know that.
of the land mass, not of the people, but of the land mass. And those went out to both sides.
Yes, sir.
Talking about the petitions were sent out, highlighted, all property owners must sign this. You highlighted it in yellow, and then we come up and we pull that back up in the meeting where you said, well, that's not what we meant. But if you told somebody they had to do something in school, they had to do it or they would have flunked. And you did that in your petition. You highlighted right there, everybody must sign this, and I brought it up in the meetings, and you said, well, we're just not gonna change it. Why wouldn't you? Because in phase 2, yes, you did. And in phase 2, you should have sent them letters back out in phase 2 and asked the people again that you strongly told homeowners had to sign this thing. You misled everybody in that.
That's true.
You misled everybody in that, and I
Not
asked a
her
question in here
personally,
too.
No, I just.
not her personally, I mean, you're, it
No,
sounded
no, it
very
was church, it
defensive.
was church, cause I asked, I brought it all up.
Like, you're making it sound like she did it personally, and you're getting a little too defensive.
That's the one, the night in the
I'm just
meeting,
saying,
that's the
you're
one in
getting
the
a little
night in
too
the meeting.
defensive.
This isn't an attack on anybody.
I'm just saying.
Ma'am? Yes. I could be wrong, but I sort of remember that when we did the petitions and I remember hearing that would go out again for bids, or would go out again for approval by the people. But it was if the estimate versus the bids was 10%, was greater than 10%, it would have to go back out for vote. It didn't have to.
Yes, that is always, that's true.
So it came on within 10% of what they estimated.
We did not
And we
go
had
with
two
that.
estimates and made it very clear that they were estimates.
Oh, yeah.
Very clear that they were estimates. And if we had come out greater than,
10% of the total.
we would have to start all over.
But that was the estimates that didn't include our personal estimates. We had no idea that we were gonna have all this extra cost.
I'm not arguing.
Right, we had absolutely no idea we were gonna have this extra cost. And yeah, can Greg pay you for it? Sure. But who wants to?
And that's saying.
You know, and shouldn't that be shared across everybody? Maybe that's what that 1.8 million should go into, is pay for that extra hookup cost that none of us knew was gonna happen.
Did you really think though that you would have pumps that are run by electricity that?
I had no idea I would have a pump.
Right.
I didn't understand. I'm not a sewer engineer. I had no idea what that meant. I thought, oh, they're gonna have it. All these other pumps are hooked up to the system power. Ours are not hooked up. Why are our pumps hooked up to the system power? That's a question, a legitimate question. Well, no, that's what I'm asking. I mean, so, I mean, you were involved in the decision making, but it's like, couldn't you run 220 to all of our pumps and then, I don't know, as much of an extra cost at all? You know? And so now we have this extra cost, and then if you got extra money, I'll take some. You spread it out, spread the cost among everybody. Like the system's dependent on being spread across everybody.
One of the things you can take solace in is that by being hooked up to a system, your property value will increase. So I think that's-
Yeah, as long as I sell it before then, before I die, so then I can enjoy that money. But I understand what you're saying.
Or your kids.
You know, they kids, now, heck of the kids, they're on their own.
I was just gonna say that part of the problem we have is some of us in this community desperately need this sewer. I can't do laundry, I can't, I mean, I just had to get myself pump because it's full of groundwater, not even sewage, so
Well, I just,
I would
my
wait
system's small.
whatever,
I
I
understand.
can't wait, I bet.
My system's small and it's working. It may not work
Lucky,
tomorrow.
It might not, my
May
neighbors
not work
have tomatoes
tomorrow.
growing, and
Not
that's.
saying I don't want a sewer, it's just I don't wanna pay for it.
Well, you do,
Well,
I
yeah,
have to-
I'm being facetious, I don't wanna pay the extra. So if there's a way to find some money to help us all look up, that we don't have to pay for it, I'd appreciate that. So a bake sale, I don't
Good
know.
luck. Hey, oh, you start the.
You might have to do your own bake
We're not very, yeah, not very, I'm just joking. No, I'm joking.
Well, the equal money, phase one, with the phase one plan, the equalization. That helps everybody.
So it helped everyone.
Oh, Katie has one.
I just want to say one other thing. The 1.8 million that you were referring to, that did not go to anyone in phase one to help them hook up. We are on our own, just like you are. And that went to the equalization tank. It's going to benefit everyone. So.
Well, that's what Bob said in one meeting. Bob said that that's what they were gonna do with it, so
That
Both
was,
phases.
yes, both phases, it went to the tank.
hopefully it went to the plan.
Yes.
It did.
Yes,
it did.
it did.
Eagle money,
So, we
Big chunk.
had hope, but that did not work out.
So you're saying that probably Sturgeon Island and the low pressure system probably won't be till next year?
if I was a man, I'm not. I'd bet it's spring.
Yeah.
I'd take the over on the spring.
know our ice storm was of freaking nature, how did the sewer system do its job during that event?
Well, it was a test. And that's a good question. So the questions have been, the plant itself was fine. As you all, or you may or may not know, across the street from Burger King is a permanent generator. Well, we also have two portable generators on trailers. Sadly, neither work. As with most electronics, the control panels will fry. So you'll hear us talk about having to replace those generators. In theory, it would have worked well. So we have help me out, Steve, we have one of the main lift stations near Burger King. We have another one across near Rudy Coffee, is that correct? And then one up on the corner by Rudy Road. So in theory, the larger of the generators was to be taken to the end of Rudy Road. So probably with the flow is going to come to the station at Burger King, let it go across the road and then over to Rudy Road. So in theory, the larger of the generators was to be hooked up to the Rudy Road pump. Would have worked well. We have the smaller one that we could have taken from lift station to lift station in the commercial area, because that's the active sewer district right now, to help to power them, and they would pump what they have in their reservoir to the next stopping point. Neither of those work. We have corrective action in place to prevent that in the future. We are working hard to find grant money to buy more generators, and to someone's point, yes, we do need generators on everyone. It's a matter of cost and time. Yes, sir, you've tried to raise your hand several times.
No, it's okay, just because you're talking about that. Haven't you guys figured in like studies or whatever, everybody's on wells, so there's no water system. And when the power goes out, no, unless you got gen, there's nothing flowing. So why? Yeah, I mean, there really isn't. I mean, so, and with the seasonality, I would suspect that having generators is not a cost effective, really, to even have them, because if you have a system-wide power outage, everybody's water's out, everything's out, nobody's flowing, except if you want to get your bucket, throw it in there and hit it. But that's not going to hurt anything temporarily. And so I think you have to weigh, do you go through this, keeping generators around, moving them all over the place? Are you going to have 20 of them? But then you got to move them and do it. So you have to look at the cost effectiveness of this. And most of the time, to me, if everything's down, you're not going to really have any flow, and there's not much to worry about from that standpoint.
Yes, you raise a lot of good points. Do you want to?
I was just gonna add, every person in town flushes their toilet twice. We've now got thousands of gallons in that system that need to be moved. It's that quick, it's not just your house. You're looking at a mass area.
But the system itself will handle the piping and everything else. There's storage, I mean, you can ask the engineer, but we don't need to.
I wasn't involved in the design, but I can say that from what I've heard is that for all the reasons you stated, that's one of the reasons they didn't include generators for the lift stations here, because conventional wisdom said in this area, because they're all on wells and because you don't have these long power outages like a hurricane and that, we're probably fine with that. Where people are rethinking that now. More people do have generators, more people are going to have generators after this storm as well. So you're going to have more people that actually are making water. And there's a chance to have the power out for a week or two like in a hurricane. Even though it's northern Michigan, we don't get hurricanes.
You don't get ice storms.
Yeah, so your points, that's kind of what the thinking was. People are rethinking that.
And well before the storm, Tammy Gall, our operator, and I had that conversation. Because I was thinking, how many more do we need, just in case? Because we've had summer thunderstorms where the power does go out for 3 to 5 days. Tammy said, again, before March 31st, I said, how long can the system sit without electricity, without shutting down our entire community? And she said, probably 2 days. But we have the generators and we can move them. Oh, Doug, you would be a part of that. Easy, no. Doable, yes. And then March 31st came. Where are we thinking?
So you're working on a plan to rectify the failure of the backup plan. And that's gonna take a while before you figure that out. And then we'll do, like, you know, somebody is starting these generators every month
Yes.
and things like
I
that.
thought you were gonna say, let's shut this down.
No. I
Yeah, no,
Some-
yes, no. Just like at home, for those of us that have generators or you have any type of equipment that's seasonally used, you know, you check the gas and the oil in your snowblower and then your mowers and your generators and your, you check our seasonally, our air conditioning, we have that in our premises. We will have developed a plan and a routine where that is done with regularity, so that we're not surprised when it's ice storming and we've hauled that big generator to the pump station and realized that not only does the plug not work, it's not very plugged, but our control panel is not down. Could we have anything else that's gone wrong? If we learned one thing, we learned 6. So there were pearls, there are pearls in everything.
So what does the main generator power then when the power goes out? Just a single lift station?
It powers the plant.
The one across from the Burger King?
The Burger King has its own dedicated generator.
And that's for the plant?
No, that's for the Burger King lift station.
Just that single lift station?
Yeah.
Because that's the big one.
Oh,
That's the big one? That's why that's powered?
Right, yeah, and then the 2 portable ones were for the other couple of lift stations, and then also for these new lift stations that we're going in. We're rethinking that now, because this is a different world. Plus, after COVID, more and more people live up here. Right?
Yeah.
These are not just all seasonal cottages anymore.
and they're more than cottages. I mean, your beautiful home is so stuff.
How many lift stations are there gonna be in our community?
We've got, there'll be 8 new ones. There's 3 in Elmer's, there's 2 in Nats, and there's 3 in phase 2. There's gonna be a 4th one, but we will get some easements and knock one of it off.
It's a,
What can you tell us or talk to regarding phase 3?
what would you like to know?
Well,
I know
has
very
a
little.
preliminary, engineering report been done?
The $1 million that's trying to get turned on, that's the earmarks there, 35,000 in there is for preliminary engineering report for future phase 3.
I thought that was at no cost, the preliminary report.
I actually had to go through all this because they're trying to get the grant transferred over to the big grant. I had to research all the history on them, and everything I read was that, yeah, that's 35,000 was the budget item for a PDR for phase 3. So,
What's the holdup with moving forward with that?
It's earmark. They were able to get the earmark, and then they wanted a description of what all the budget items were for the earmark and explanation that. So that finally got sent in. Then they came back and they said, well, actually, it'd be cleaner if we just take the $3.5 million grant and make this $1 million supplement to that $3.5 million grant. So I was able to read, but he wanted to change the $3.5 million grants description to include this. So I did that, I gave that to them. She sent that in, and now they're asking more questions.
Yeah, now they're asking for the entire, all the contracts for all the contractors. And so we're having to put that package together to send it off to the EPA.
So is EPA assessment on it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's EPA money. Yes, ma'am.
So it's in the pipeline. We're working hard to get the information back and forth. If we were the only recipient, it would be great. But they send us an email, we comply, send it back, and we wait. And then they send a response, and we comply and send it on.
This is to get additional grant money to.
Yes,
Yeah, it's $1 million, it's earmarked. It's not a grant request.
Correct.
It's already earmarked, but
Right.
they're trying to get it supplemented into the original grant. And then what's really frustrating is that we've already used a lot of that money for phase 2. That's half of phase 2. And Grand Traverse Construction is doing the plan. Their last 4 draws have included phase 2 money. And EPA pays 62.95% of whatever the amount is that month. And then USDA pays 37.05%. But EPA hasn't been paying their part yet because we can't get the draws to go into the system, which is a whole different issue. So GTC's floated a bunch of money to the
Well,
town.
understanding the money that was originally going towards phase 3 had to be used towards the plant upgrade.
The only thing.
That's what we were told.
I went back and looked. The only thing that for phase 3 is that in that $1 million earmark, 35,000 of that was for a preliminary engineering report for phase 3. That's, I don't know why someone started calling it phase 3 money, but maybe it's because it was a phase 1 and a phase 2 funding for the current stuff. But that $1 million earmark was not for phase 3. There was a small piece of that was for PER for phase 3. Preliminary engineering report, but that's it's like doing a great big report, like, you know, the senior thesis or something like that on why Tuscarora deserves all this money for the sewer. And the engineering part behind it.
thank you. It's after 7. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Feel free to stay for the township meeting. I'll be on.
That's a bummer. This is